Sports Social Podcast Network.
The Two-Footed Podcast is brought to you by EPLindex.com and our presenting sponsor, Liberty Shield. Liberty Shield is a VPN provider. A virtual privacy network allows you to go online, change your location, access things you're geo-blocked from, while keeping your data safe. So, as an example, if you are a UK expat and want access to BBC iPlayer to watch Match of the Day or ITV Hub or all four, but you get that message that says this content is not available in your location, a Liberty Shield VPN gets you around that block, allows you to watch whatever you want on those services while also keeping your data safe. And it goes further than that. It allows you to open up Netflix's entire library by just changing your IP address. Liberty Shield is the #1 rated VPN provider on Trustpilot with 5-star ratings across the board. So go to libertyshield.com right now, use the code EPL25 and get either the hardware package or the software package. The hardware package is a router that you plug into your existing router, and any item you want to change the IP address on, be it your phone or your television, you connect that to the new Liberty Shield router. All other items can remain connected to your existing router. There's also a software package, which is instantly downloadable to your device and you can get using straight away. Again, libertyshield.com, EPL25 for 25% off at checkout. We're also brought to you by Home of Hopcroft, a giftware and homeware company located in Scotland but shipping worldwide. Check out homeofhopcroft.co.uk and do check out the EPL Index and Anfield Index shops, which you'll find on Etsy. Use the codes EPL10 or RED10 for 10% off at checkout. And lastly, do remember to check out A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. That podcast is on this feed before every Premier League match week. And then the EPL Roundtable, hosted by Kevin DeVries, on its own EPL Roundtable feed. So just search EPL Roundtable in your podcast device. And that's out after every match week. Now, on with the show. What's good, boys and girls? Two-Footed Podcast. Today is Monday. It is the 19th of February. We are rolling through 2024. And the weather has genuinely picked up. I believe spring is upon us, but we'll wait and see. At the weekend, we had 9 games in the Premier League. We have 1 tonight. We'll get to that. Brentford 1, Liverpool 4. In the first game of the weekend, the 12:30 kickoff. This went far better than most Liverpool fans expected in terms of the result, but came at a cost. Darwin Núñez, Alexis McAllister, Mohamed Salah put Liverpool into a 3-0 lead. Ivan Toney did pull one back for Brentford, but Cody Gakpo made it 4-1 on 86 minutes. Liverpool playing some lovely agricultural football. 3 of their goals coming from speculative long balls. This is what they need to do. This is the recipe against teams like Brentford, who defend really well in a deep block. Catch them, A, on the counter as they did on the first goal, and B, with direct football that they're not expecting from you. There was a case for Brentford to have a penalty. In my opinion, it was a penalty. Andy Robertson fouled Ivan Toney. However, Liverpool should have had 2 penalties. Diogo Jota and Luis Diaz both fouled in the penalty area. Both should have been given. We move on. Burnley 0, Arsenal 5. Martin Odegaard on 4 minutes. Really good work by Martinelli. Lovely touch. Brilliant strike by Odegaard. Tremendous goal. 41 minutes in, Leandro Trossard is brought down in the penalty area. A little bit soft, but definitely contact. No issue with the penalty being given. I do take issue with James Trafford's attempt to save the penalty. Saka doesn't strike it well at all, and Trafford doesn't manage to keep it out. 47 minutes, Saka makes it 3. I don't know what Trafford is doing. It's a good strike, but it's right over your head. It's right over your head. You should be saving that. Trossard made it 4 on 66. Burnley's defence was all over the place. We had more shambolic defending on 78 minutes as Kai Havertz made it 5. And that is another impressive win for Arsenal following on from last week's 6-0. We'll see if they can sustain this level. They haven't scored goals at this level all season. Both teams they played very, very poor in gifting them goals. We'll see how this works out. Their next game will be against Newcastle in next Premier League game. And in the league at the weekend, Newcastle 2, Bournemouth 2. Bournemouth should have been out of sight in the first half. Dominic Solanke missed 2 great chances. Newcastle were all over the place. Solanke put Bournemouth ahead on 51. Martin Dubravka, the ball was played back to him. He slipped. Solanke snuck in and scored. Anthony Gordon made it 1-1 from the penalty spot on 58 minutes. Absolutely no-brainer penalty. Definitely a foul. So no issues there. Antoine Semenyo on 69 minutes with a very, very nice finish. Took the shot early from the angle. Caught Dubravka unprepared and put Bournemouth ahead. But Matt Ritchie, who kind of an afterthought at Newcastle for quite a while, manages to get the equaliser on 92 minutes. Gorgeous ball from Guimaraes. Ritchie on the end of it, selflessly, tries to head it to a teammate. It hits Lewis Cook. It's almost an own goal. Neto somehow keeps it out, but it falls to Matt Ritchie and he hammers home 2-2. Fulham 1, Aston Villa 2. Fulham just a mess defensively on the first goal. Their throw-in in their own half. Players not prepared. Ball chucked in. Ramsey nicks it. Ball bobbles to Ollie Watkins and he finishes really well. Villa missed 2-3 good chances in the first half. Leon Bailey causing all manner of problems for Fulham. I thought Yuri Tielemans playing between the lines got himself into good positions. He should have scored. Watkins should have scored. Villa finally got their second goal on 56 minutes. Again, it's Watkins. It's a really, really well taken goal. Ricardo Muniz pulled one back on 63 after good work down the left by Anthony Robinson. But this was all Villa. Statistically, Fulham had more shots and more shots on target, but there's no way you came away from that game thinking that Villa weren't comfortably the better team on the day. Now, Emi Martinez did have to make one very, very good 1v1 save against Adama Traore, who looks to have slimmed down quite substantially. But Villa were absolutely good value for their win. Nottingham Forest 2, West Ham 1. Teo Awoniyi on the stroke of half-time. Lovely ball into him. Great first touch. Great finish. 1-0 to Forest at the break. Calvin Phillips, I don't even know where to begin. The first yellow card is utterly brainless. He gets involved. He wins a free kick. Rather than take the free kick, he gets involved with the Forest players, shoves the man to the ground, gets a yellow card, and within minutes, on a Forest counter-attack, he comes across, his foot is raised, he catches Gibbs White, there's no questions, a second yellow card, and off he goes. Forest were denied a stonewall penalty in this game. Absolutely stonewall penalty, no question Nico Williams was brought down, his foot was stood on, it should have been given, it wasn't given, but Forest got their second goal, Callum Hudson-Odoi in stoppage time, rounding off a very, very good afternoon for Forest. A good win, well-deserved. Tottenham 1, Wolves 2. This was a really good game. Tottenham had all of the ball, but Wolves were just devastating on the counter. Pedro Neto might be the best counter-attacking weapon anywhere in Europe. He is just a sensation. Wolves went 1-up on 42 minutes through João Gomes. They could have scored just beforehand. Hwang missed a sitter, but they work another opportunity. They get a corner. Sarabia's delivery. João Gomes is 5'8", maybe 5'9". He gets a completely free header, 8 yards out. I don't know how that happens, but he directs it brilliantly. It's a really good goal. Just after the break, Dejan Kulusevski equalised for Spurs. It's a wonderful bit of skill. Ball is ping-ponging around. Falls to Kulusevski. 2 brilliant touches taken past 2 men. And as the keeper moves to set himself, it's a quick toe poke through the keeper's legs. And it's 1-1. And you would have backed Spurs to win at that point. But Wolves were just, like I say, devastating on the counter. Neto breaks down the left off a Spurs set piece. Sorry, breaks down the right off a Spurs set piece. Just runs everybody. Runs Emerson Royal. But it's not just his pace. It's his ability to stop on a dime. Turn back. Play the perfect ball. João Gomes strides onto it. Doesn't break stride at all. First time finish. Whips it by the goalkeeper. No chance for Vicario. And Wolves are back in front. From there, it's all Spurs. But Wolves are still able to cut them open on the counter. Again, it's Neto. He finds Bellegarde. He really, really has to score. Beats the first man, needs to shoot, but wants it on his on his right foot. So takes a kind of awkward way round the ball, allows Emerson Royal to come in and make the block. You felt like Spurs were going to get an equaliser. There was going to be a big chance. It was all about who it fell to. And unfortunately for Spurs, it fell to Ben Davies. A header from no more than 4 or 5 yards out, totally free, dead centre of the goal. And it is an absolute shambles. Whatever he was trying to do, it turned out to be a great defensive header. But Wolves get the win. That's the double they've done over Spurs this season. Big, big win for Gary O'Neill's side. Man City won, Raheem Sterling won. Man City won, Chelsea won in the late game on Saturday. Chelsea's first half display was maybe some of the best football they've played this year. Defensive shape looked excellent. Now, City still had chances. Erling Haaland missed a sitter in the first half. He would miss 3 in the second half. But Chelsea defended brilliantly. No Thiago Silva, which meant no liability. Gusto, Disasi, Colwill, Chilwell. Balance, pace, ability on the ball, ability to play high, ability to drop deep. This defense worked really well. Enzo and Caicedo in that first half were tremendous, completely shut down City's midfield. Cole Palmer, buzzing between the lines, caused so many problems for City. Raheem Sterling and Nicholas Jackson, with their pace and running in behind, had City's defence all over the place. And special mention to Conor Gallagher, who sacrificed himself in this game by design, I would imagine. Just went and sat on Rodri and buzzed around him and harassed him and harangued him and didn't allow City to play out through Rodri, which hampered their build-up. Chelsea were excellent in the first half and deservedly went in front through Raheem Sterling on 42 minutes. Good ball, played down the line. For some reason, despite the fact that Kanji is in a good position to defend that ball, Kyle Walker comes charging across from right back, gets himself caught in no man's land. The ball is played over to Sterling. Walker sprints back. Because he's moving so quickly out of desperation to get back, Sterling cuts back inside him really easily and finishes well. Like I said, Haaland would miss 3 great chances in the second half. He's surprisingly not great in the air for a guy his size. He doesn't score nearly as many headed goals as you would expect him to get, given the size, the strength, the speed, and how good he is at everything else in terms of his finishing. He's not particularly good in the air. the KDB clipped cross to him. I mean, that should be a goal all day. But City got their equaliser on 83 minutes. The pressure finally told. I mean, they'd had probably 29 shots by that point. Kyle Walker comes into the back post, shoots kind of wildly. It takes a couple of deflections, bounces back. Rodri steps onto it. As he does so often for City, he gets the big goal to salvage the point. On to Sunday then, the early kickoff, Sheffield United 0, Brighton 5. Mason Holgate sent off on 13 minutes for the worst tackle you're going to see all season. And what really winds me up is when the free kick was given, Mason Holgate was outraged that a free kick had been given. The ball is at Mitoma's feet. Holgate comes across. His right foot catches Mitoma above the knee. Above the knee. Like, you know how wild and out of control you have to be to end up catching somebody above the knee? That's horrendous. The referee gives a yellow card. Holgate can't believe he's been booked. He doesn't understand what's going on. And yet, VAR review, yellow card cancelled, straight red, and Holgate doesn't protest it at all. So he knew what he'd done. He was trying to get away with it. No apology, no remorse for what could have been a potential career ender. Like, genuinely, it is one of the worst tackles you'll ever see. These are the type of tackles we would have seen in the 70s and 80s when things were a little bit less regulated. It is an absolute shocker. Off you go, son. If Sheffield United have any decency, they'll just cancel the loan and send him away. Buonanotte put Brighton 1 up on 20 minutes. Pascal Gross with the corner to the back post. Lewis Dunk heads across goal. Buonanotte puts it into the roof of the net. It bounces down, bounces out, and Sheffield United tried to play on. Some gang of lads. Danny Welbeck made it 2 on 24 minutes. Again, it's Pascal Gross with a clipped cross to the back post. Mitoma comes in. His shot is saved by Fotheringham. Bounces back to Welbeck, who finishes and makes it 2-0. Sheffield United did have a goal disallowed from there. A little bit of controversy over it. There's a header back across goal. Osborne is offside on the initial header, but it comes off a Brighton player. I assume the ruling is that it wasn't a purposeful touch. Now, what was unusual here is that the referee ruled it out based on the linesman flagging for it. He was told to go and review it and stuck with his on-field review, which we don't see very often. Brighton found the third goal on 75 minutes. Very simple. Mitoma squares up his fullback, shifts the ball, swings the cross in, and Jack Robinson sticks a foot out and puts it into his own net. Simon Adingra would make it 4 3 minutes later. Really, really nice finish. Ball played in. It's at an awkward height, but he manages to swivel and kind of clip the volley and sweep it into the net. Great finish. 85 minutes, Adingra makes it 5. Now, this one, I'm not sure if it's Adingra's goal. He takes the shot. To me, it looks like it's going across the goal and not into the goal. Takes a big deflection, loops up. And Evan Ferguson gets a touch to it. Now, whether the touch is after it goes over the line, I don't know. But I think that one might end up as an own goal, which would be a shame for Adingra because he's a really, really promising young player. Last game of the day, Luton 1, Manchester United 2. So this is just a weird game of football. Luton had 59% of the ball. Luton had 22 shots. United had 21. It was very open, very end-to-end. No control for United at all in this game. Their first goal is a hopeful punt down the field, which Amari Bell, I think, is the one. I think it was Amari Bell. Yeah, because it was on the left side. Amari Bell, it's just a horror show. Ball is played over his head. He's turned facing his own goal. Just let it bounce and then head it, or let it bounce and boot it into the crowd, or whatever you don't do. Whatever he tried to do, I don't know. But he basically skewed his touch right into the path of Højlund, who semi-rounds the keeper and lashes into the net. 1-0 United in the first minute. 7 minutes in, United set piece, ball drops to Garnacho. He takes a shot. Højlund is trying to get out of the way, is what he's trying to do. And the ball hits his chest and deflects across the goal and in. Gary Neville tried to make out that he meant it. There's not a chance he meant it. Absolutely no way. On 14 minutes, Carlton Morris pulled one back for Luton. Chong takes a shot, takes a big deflection, loops across, and Carlton Morris is just braver than Onana, is what it comes down to, and he pulls one back. Casemiro is booked, and then Casemiro jumps into a tackle on Ross Barkley. It's as flagrant a yellow card as you're ever going to see, and David Coote bottles the decision. Absolutely bottles the decision. A disgraceful act by the referee. No question that when the report comes out from the dubious decisions panel or whatever they're called, they're going to say that Casemiro should have been sent off. It was a really poor tackle on Barkley. It genuinely might have even been red card worthy. It's that poor and that dangerous, and it doesn't come near the ball. But it was definitely a yellow card. Probably not a red, but definitely a yellow. But he should have been sent off. That should have been a second yellow, and away he goes. He's very, very fortunate. Very, very fortunate. And United were quite fortunate from there. Now, they did have a couple of really good counter-attacking opportunities. One where Bruno Fernandes rounds the goalkeeper. I think it's Gabriel Osho makes the block. It's a brilliant tackle. Another where Garnacho gets in, kind of rounds the goalkeeper. The defender gets back. He turns back. He makes a mess of it. But Luton had a couple of decent chances, and then Ross Barkley clips the crossbar with a header late on. Luton deserved something from that game, but United won't care. They will take the win. So the league table right now, Liverpool top on 57 points. Then come Arsenal on 55. Manchester City on 53, but they have a game in hand that they will play tomorrow night at home to Brentford. Then a 4-point gap to Villa, who are 2 points clear of Tottenham. Villa have some injury issues at the moment. It's going to make it tough for them to sustain top four and Conference League. But that win will be hugely confidence boosting for them the weekend after what's been a fairly poor run for them. Spurs on 47, United on 44, then a 6-point gap to Brighton. Now, you'll remember, I talked about it the other day, people are saying Brighton are having a bad season. They're 7th in the league. They've lost 7 games. Only the top 5 have lost less games than Brighton. People say Brighton's defence is dreadful. They've conceded less goals than everybody bar the top 6 and Everton. That's less goals than Newcastle United, who had the best defence in the league last season. That's less goals than Chelsea, who play pretty defensive style of football. Less goals than West Ham. Now, aided and abetted by West Ham shipping 6 last week, but still. West Ham are a David Moyes team. Their goal difference is +8. You've only got the top 5 and Newcastle with a better goal difference. United, by the way, finally have a positive goal difference on the season. It took them 25 games to get to +1. Congrats on that. If this is a bad season for Brighton, imagine how terrifying a good season for Brighton would be. This is a season that they came into having lost Caicedo, lost McAllister, lost Levi Colwill. This is a season in which they've been racked by injuries. If we take a look, now the goalkeeping situation is purely down to De Zerbi. Jason Steele should be playing far, far less, but that's the decision the manager's made, and thus so be it. But in the Premier League, Verbruggen has played 11 and Steele has played 14, which comes with its own problems. Your defence needs to get used to playing with a goalkeeper. They haven't had that chance. Tariq Lamptey has started 5 games and made 5 sub-appearances. Igor Julio has started 10 games, made 4 sub-appearances. Adam Webster started 8 games, made 1 sub-appearance. Lewis Dunk has started 21 games. Jan-Paul Van Hecke, who I'm not sold on at all, has 18 starts and 2 sub-appearances. So the centre-backs, Dunk and Van Hecke have been fairly solidly there. Dunk is having a bad season. Van Hecke is not great. The starting fullbacks are Joel Veltman and Pervis Estupiñán. Joel Veltman started 9 games in the league this year. He's been on the bench for 8 others, and he's come off the bench in those games, but that still means he's missed 8 games. Pervis Estupiñán has missed 12 games this season. He's only started 10 times with 3 sub-appearances. So you're starting left-back barely there for most of the season. In midfield, Solly March has only started 7 games. He would be the starting right winger. He's only played in 7 games. Billy Gilmore has been fairly consistently there, as is Pascal Gross. But you look at Baliba still settling himself in, only 7 starts. Matoma, 15 starts, so that's 10 he's missed, but he came off the bench in 4. Adingra, 14 starts, came off the bench in 4. Ansu Fati, only 2 starts this season, came off the bench in 10. Buenanote starting 11 games when he's probably just not quite ready. Jack Hinchelwood starting 8 games, again, not ready. Like, that's a lot of injury issues in your midfield. Mo Dahoud started only 6 games. Was brought in to be the replacement for Alexis. Up front, João Pedro has started 12 of 25. Danny Welbeck, 13 of 25. Evan Ferguson, 12 of 25. Julio Enciso, 1 of 25. Now, both Pedro and Ferguson have come off the bench in 11 games, so they've only missed 2 each. But they still miss games. Danny Welbeck has missed a bunch of games. But Enciso's missed basically the whole season. And I think he'd be starting for them. So you've got him barely there. Estupiñán's missed 2/3 of the season, or 3/5 of the season. Matoma's missed a chunk of games. Solly March is such a huge loss to them as well. They've been racked by injuries. Like, it's really unfortunate how many injuries they've had across the board. So they've been dealing with all of that, been dealing with the loss of 3 vital players from last season, been dealing with playing in Europe for the first time, topped their group. They're still in the FA Cup, though. Tough draw away to Wolves. But how is this a bad season? Genuine. They're 1 point ahead of Newcastle, who are 1 point ahead of West Ham, who are 1 point ahead of Wolves and Chelsea, or Chelsea and Wolves, who both have 35 points. Chelsea are ahead of Wolves on goal difference, +1 against -1. So neither inspiring in that regard, but for Wolves to be level in points with Chelsea is a really good achievement. From Wolves, it's a 6-point gap to Fulham. Then it's 1 point to both Bournemouth and Brentford. Brentford play City. Bournemouth are 3 points ahead of Brentford. Bournemouth have 28 points, Brentford have 25. Both of those teams have games in hand. Brentford's is City, Bournemouth is Luton. So Brentford 25, Forest 24, Palace 24, game in hand tonight against Everton. Luton 20, obviously game in hand against Bournemouth. Everton 19th, 18th. Big opportunity to get themselves out of the relegation battle tonight, given Palace are in really poor form and Roy Hodgson's currently in hospital. There's no clarity from the club over who the manager is. I assume Ray Lunston will be the caretaker for the night. Below Everton, it's a 6-point gap to Burnley and Sheffield United, who I think we can just write off right now. 13 games to go. They've got 13 points each. Funnily enough, Sheffield United's goal difference is 13 worse than Burnley. Minus 30 for Burnley, which is 14 worse than anyone else in the league. Palace are minus 16. That's the next worst. But Sheffield United, minus 43. 65 goals conceded in 25 games. 65 goals in 25 games. Over 2.5 goals a game being conceded while scoring less than one. Now, Burnley are not much better. They've scored exactly one a game, 25, conceded 55. That is shocking. Like I said, the next worst is considerably better than them. The next worst goals allowed is Luton on 47, but they've scored 34 goals. Then it's Bournemouth on 46, early season hammerings, but they've scored 33. Forest 44, but they've scored 32. Brentford 43, they've scored 35. Palace, who, like I said, third worst goal difference, 43 goals conceded, same as Brentford, but they've only scored 27. West Ham doing their bit for bad defensive records, 44 goals conceded, only scored 36. And like they're still ninth. Now, they look like a team falling apart. They really do. They've lost 3 in a row. They haven't won in their last 5. They're 1 point clear of Chelsea and Wolves. Now, they've got a big game coming up against Brentford, but their schedule is a little bit favourable over the next 3. Brentford home, Brentford home, Everton away, Burnley home. They've got to take 7 points from that 3, because then it gets real tough. You go Villa home, Toon away, Spurs home, Wolves away. That's a really tough 4-game run. So they need to make hay while they can. Chelsea, on the other hand, league games. Brentford away, because they don't have a league game this weekend. Next weekend, but they don't have a league game coming up because they've got the League Cup final. Then they've got their FA Cup game. Then they go Brentford away, Toon home, Arsenal away, Burnley home. I fancy them to give Arsenal a decent game. If they play like they did yesterday, I think they can get something at the Emirates. Wolves, Sheffield United home, that's a favourable one. Toon away will be tough. Fulham home, Bournemouth home. Wouldn't be surprised if, when we get to the 29 game mark, if Wolves are sitting in 9th. Maybe even higher. We'll go to break. When we come back, I have a guest. Former Premier League manager, 3-time Premier League winner, Premier League winning captain. It's a good one. I'll see you after this.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Right, I'm delighted to be joined on the line by a man who had a great playing career, a successful managerial career, multiple-time Premier League winner, Steve Bruce. Steve, how are you today?
Good morning. I'm well, thank you very much. Very, very good, thank you, yes.
So, Steve, where I want to start is I want to start with the playing career. So, obviously, you come through the academy at Gillingham, you move on to Norwich, and then in 1987, you land at Manchester United. And that's where most people will remember you as a player. So, you had a very, very successful tenure there, winning multiple Premier League titles, winning cups, winning the European Cup Winners' Cup. You were part of the first great Alex Ferguson team there, but it took him quite a while to build that team. It didn't happen instantaneously. He's now been gone for nearly 11 years, and Manchester United still seem to be attempting to rebuild. Why do you think it is that it's taken so long? Is it just the sheer scale of the club that people can't quite grasp, or is there something else you think at play there?
Well, there's that for a start. I mean, you don't realise until you're in the building everybody knows that Manchester United is a huge, big football club. And some would say arguably as big as you get in the world. And when you arrive in the club, you do realise then of exactly what it is. I mean, where everybody else, I'm going to talk about newspapers because that's what it was back in the day, there's always the story about Manchester United. And it's the intensity of the whole thing which engulfs you, and if you're not careful, can overwhelm you. And I've seen it with players in particular who have been fantastic players on paper anyway, and really can't come to terms with the size of what Manchester United is. So I was fortunate that, through arriving maybe at 27 years old, and I'd played maybe 400 times, even though they were in the lower divisions for 6 of those years at Gillingham. I was determined that I was going to take it on and enjoy it and try not to be overwhelmed with it. And thankfully, I did okay with it. But I've seen a lot of people just unfortunately fall by the wayside, just not being able to cope with what Manchester United brings.
Steve, let me say, you did more than okay with it. You're 3-time Premier League winner. You lifted that trophy for Manchester United. Roy Keane, a noted leader, talks about you as one of the people that taught him how to be a leader. You did more than okay at United. You're a standout player in that club's history. Can you tell me what it was like to play under Alex Ferguson? Because he is, without question, the great manager of the Premier League era.
Without question, he was the great manager. And what's it like to play for him? It was absolutely... Look, he changed my life. In fact, my wife and I bumped into him in a restaurant some 6 months ago, and she went over to him and put her arms around him and thanked him that he changed our life. He changed our life by giving me the opportunity. Of course, I had to grasp it, but to play for him for nearly 10 years and be his captain, then that is something which I'll take with me as a great honour, because we're talking about one of the great or the greatest manager of all time. I mean, his longevity, what he won, how he done it, it was just mind-blowing, and it was a privilege to be part of it. Of course, he was demanding. He demanded stuff off you every single day, and that never ceased in his tenure. His demand to win was incredible, and what happens with a lot of people is once they've had success, it's sustaining it. And he was a master at it. He was a master at changing the team when the team needed changing, when you need a new centre forward or you need a new midfield player. He was always never frightened to change. So I always say it was a personal honour to play for him and to play for such a wonderful, wonderful football club, because at the start was always the holy grail that we had to win the Premier League. And it demanded all. And the year before we won it, it taught us a harsh lesson, but we took the water in a bit. I know we had injuries, we had to play a ridiculous amount of games in a ridiculous short period of time, but we weren't the same when it really come to the push. We weren't there, and I think that benefited it, and we all learned from it the following season when we won it.
Yeah, of course, you almost have to go through those heartbreaks to kind of battle-proof yourself. I mean, as a Liverpool fan, I remember, going through in 13-14, Liverpool didn't get the job done, stumbled at the last hurdle. Then under Jurgen Klopp, they finished second in 2018, 2019, and then go on and win the league the next year. And it always reminded me of that Manchester United team. You guys obviously finishing second to Leeds, and then the following season just roaring back and going on and winning the league, and then going back to back as well, which was very difficult to do.
Yeah, back to back. Yeah, I mean, look, I think we should have won. We could have won a treble of. Really, we had
the Blackburn year.
The Blackburn year, where how we didn't win the game against West Ham is beyond me. But that's football. We had chance after chance after chance and missed them. And also, we lost the cup final to Everton that year too, as well, which was a big blow to us all, really. But then again, the following year, '96, we've won the double again. So we were close to winning 3 doubles in a row, which gives some idea of how good the team was. I always say the '94 team that I played in was just absurd. It didn't play together very long because by '95, Sir Alex had started to bring in the young ones, and Hughes, Kanchelskis, and Ince left, if you remember. So it was an unbelievable good team. Really, really, for me, a great, great team. Hughes and Cantona and Ince and Keane and Robson, Kanchelskis and Giggs and Sharp and Irwin and Parker and Schmeichel. It was an absolute wonderful, wonderful team.
And the strength of it always was that there was just no weak link in that team. Like as an opposition fan, you'd always be looking at United and trying to find, like, where's the weakness? And there was never a weakness in those teams. You guys just had quality players all over the pitch. And you mentioned the summer that Kanchelskis and Ince and Hughes were moved on. And people thought, oh, he's lost the plot here. He's won a couple of league titles and now he's making mad changes. But nobody was prepared for what was coming through the academy. Nobody had a realization that there was like 4, 5, 6 players coming through that were going to define English football for the next 15 years. Well,
that is the greatness, because we certainly didn't see it. We all knew these kids were good. But to come and it'll never be done again, to have 5 of them come through from the youth team and go on to dominate like they did, was quite remarkable, really. And that's where we talk about greatness. We talk about the word great too often. That's where you talk about greatness, to see that as a manager, to see, well, we can replace him. We can replace Kanchelskis with Beckham. We can replace Ince with Scholes and Nicky Butt. And it was quite remarkable, really, that these lads were shown, but went on with huge, huge success. And that's what I'm saying. When we talk about greatness, them big key decisions were ultimately a bit like what Klopp's done now as well. I mean, it's difficult for me to say it as a Liverpool, but, the revolution now of the new Liverpool team, we've seen the one that has unfortunately got old, what won the league, where Henderson's gone, Firmino and them lot have gone, and the now integration of the new team and the new players. That's been fascinating to watch too.
For me, the true mark of the greatness of Ferguson, it's not even the league titles. Like, the 13 league titles is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
But from 91-92, that season you guys finished second to Leeds, up until he walked out the door in the summer of 2013, United never finished below third. And they only finished third 3 different times. Every other year in that span, they're first or second. That level of consistency. And like you mentioned it, you guys lost the title by 1 point to Blackburn. The year after you left, they lost it by 1 point to Arsenal. Like, they were right to the wire every year. That you just can't do that now. Even Liverpool and City, you're not seeing them run off runs like that. Like, Liverpool have had a 3rd place finish and a 5th place finish. City obviously have been first or second, but one year they were 18 points behind Liverpool. What you guys were doing was just, to this day, is still unheard of.
I have to say, you're quite right in your judgment of it. You know all the stats more than I do. The one thing you have to say is that Man City are on. I mean, Man City have now won 6 out of 7, which is a remarkable achievement under Pep too. And then again, we're talking about greatness of Pep and what he does and how he does it. But look, it is, that's what I'm saying. When people have a level of success and they get there, staying at the top is the most difficult thing. It's probably easier getting there, but to sustain it year 8, have the appetite, the desire, the hunger, the work power, the willpower, the strength, everything he had in abundance. And he used it all sorts of things like, I've got 3 envelopes and 3 names in the envelopes, which I'll open at the end of the season, who I think will think, oh, well, they've done it all and wore it all and been there, wore the T-shirt and not do enough this year because they think they made it, and we're all looking at each other. Well, who's in the envelope? Of course, there was nobody's name in the envelope. it was all a bit of psychology at the time, and where I thought, well, I hope he's not talking about me. And look, it's very difficult. And every conversation I seem to have, it's always about the great man. He was the greatest. He is the greatest. I can't see it ever being replicated of what he went on to do and achieve. The only one who's got a chance probably is Pep, but he's only halfway there.
Yeah, and he's probably not going to. He's probably not going to stick around that long. So, two quick ones just to wrap up on yourself. You spent 24 years as a manager. We haven't seen you in the dugout since you left West Brom. Are we going to see Steve Bruce back in a dugout anytime soon? Is it something you still have the passion for?
Oh, and I'm certainly have the passion. On a Saturday is still difficult for me. It's the first time I've had a year off since I started playing in 1976. I've never had a year off. I've had a year off. I'm itching to get back in some capacity. If it's at the coalface, then yes, bring it on. I'm looking to try and do something. I hope I'm not finished. But look, if I am and I don't get any more opportunities, then I can stand back and say, how lucky have I been? I've been so lucky. I've been in it for 45 years, 24 as a man, 20 the player. I couldn't have wished for anything better. I wouldn't change anything, but I would like one more crack. So if there is an owner, chairman, CEO, I would like to think if they ask me a question about football, I'll be able to answer it. And whether I can be a help to some young manager, an assistant to someone, or in the coalface, I definitely want to try and work again. In what capacity? I'm not too quite sure.
Well, the game of football will be better off while there's people like yourself involved in it. That's for sure. Steve, last question before I let you go. I've taken up too much of your time already. You never got the call for England. And it was bizarre that you never got the call for England, given your level of play and level of consistency. For many years, there were rumours that Steve Bruce was going to play for Ireland.
Yep.
Your son Alex obviously played for both the Republic and Northern Ireland, so you could have done the same.
Yep.
Did it ever come close?
It was more close than ever in '94 under Jack Charlton when the Irish team were going to the World Cup, and there was and Jack. By this time, I'd found out that my mother was Irish, and I've told the story many times that he said, "Come on." I says, but Jack, I'm 34. He says, well, I don't care how old you are. We've got it. If you would join us, that would be great. And of course, I did say yes to Jack. My mum's Irish, and I've loved to have played international footballer for Ireland. Unfortunately, that would have classed me as a foreign player.
And the free foreigner rule.
The free foreigner rule. So to be look, the reason why we didn't go far in Europe in '94, I'm convinced, was that stupid rule where, Cantona and Schmeichel were sitting up in the stands when we're taking on the likes of Barcelona, It hindered us, and I would have been classed as foreign, and it wasn't going to happen with Sir Alex. So that awful decision where, unfortunately, I had to stay English because of this rule. So I missed out. On going. However, what I did do was I went to USA and followed them with Alex. I was in when they beat the Italians. I was in New York when they beat the Italians 1-0. I then went down to Florida and watched them play Mexico in the heat. So I went to follow them as a supporter then. But that was the closest I got.
Well, it remains a shame from an Irish point of view that we never got you, because at that time you were one of the top players in the league. Steve, thank you so much for your time. My uncles Colin and Brendan are lifelong United fans, massive fans of yourself. And if you can wish your son Alex, who's making his first steps into management, all the best in his career, I'd love you to pass the message on. Thanks so much for your time.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right, welcome back. So the big news over the weekend in the Premier League sphere, other than the games, obviously, is that Newcastle United have put Dan Ashworth on gardening leave amid his request to leave after being approached by Manchester United. Now, it seems United haven't officially approached Newcastle yet, So Toon have put Ashworth on gardening leave. His gardening leave period takes him up to 2026. So if United really want him, they'll have to wait 2 years, or they will have to pay significant compensation. And the fee Newcastle are looking for is believed to be close to £20 million. That is an outlandish amount of money for a sporting director. However, Toon are perfectly within their rights to do this. And I think given the fact that they had to pay compensation for Ashworth to get him and wait a gardening leave period as well, and he's only been there less than 2 years into a 4-year contract, I think they're fully within their rights to hold out here. I think United are absolutely bananas to be A, considering waiting 2 years, or B, be considering paying anything close to that amount. Now, Luke Edwards, who's a terrible set of lads, but is well connected with Newcastle, he has suggested that what he thinks will happen is that they'll agree a lower compensation fee and a shortened, but not short, gardening leave period. He thinks it'll be 2025 before Ashworth takes over there. Moving on. Obviously, we had the news last week that Roy Hodgson was taken ill, was in hospital. Tony Mowbray has had to step down temporarily as Birmingham City manager as he undergoes medical treatment for an unnamed illness. He will be stepping away for a period of approximately 6 to 8 weeks. He's only been in the job a couple of months. This is not good for Birmingham, but the priority here has to be Tony Mowbray's health. And hopefully it's nothing too serious. It doesn't sound great, but hopefully we see him back in the dugout quite soon, because I have a lot of time for Tony Mowbray. I like the football he plays, and he seems like a genuinely good man. He seems like a good man. So fingers crossed he pulls through and all is well. Leah Williamson has withdrawn from the England squad with a hamstring injury. Now, she's obviously been out for an extended period of time with a torn ACL. She's back playing. She'd been called back to the England squad for the first time, but now she's had to step aside for this squad because of another injury. But hamstring injuries can often happen to players who return from knee injuries, so it's just part of the dance. We'll do the gossip. We've got 3 days worth to get into, so we'll do that. Chelsea are interested in Ivan Toney, Evan Ferguson, and Victor Osimhen. Osimhen is wanted by PSG. He is their first target, Chelsea's first target, that is, but Chelsea seem to believe PSG could outbid them, which does seem likely. PSG are looking at Lautaro Martinez, Rafael Leao, and Osimhen to replace Kylian Mbappe. Leao is the best choice of those, even though Osimhen is probably the best player, and Lautaro might be the second best player. Leao fits what they need because they've got number 9s. They've got Goncalo Ramos. They've got Randall Kolo Muani. They don't need another number 9. They need someone to play off the left. You've got Ousmane Dembele off the right. Leao makes most sense. PSG are keen to fill the void left by Mbappe's departure by signing both Bruno Guimaraes and Bernardo Silva. So that will be taking a different approach, rebuilding the midfield, and maybe just going with what is already a strong attack, but not necessarily an all-world attack. Look, this is a team that had Messi, Mbappe and Neymar and couldn't get the Champions League done. Liverpool are interested in signing Archie Gray, with Leeds potentially having to sell the 17-year-old if they do not win promotion to the Premier League. For me, if I was advising Liverpool this upcoming summer, I would advise them to sign Archie Gray and Lamine Camara to fill their midfield ranks, not go big on whichever high-level defensive midfielder could be available. You know, they've been linked to Guimaraes. I would go Archie Gray and Lamine Camara. Lamine comes in as a day one starter, and I think Archie Gray is going to be a truly special footballer. So that's what I would advise them to do. Arsenal target Pedro Neto could cost over 60 million, with Wolves holding out for a club record fee for the 23-year-old, who is also of interest to Liverpool and Tottenham. I would love Pedro Neto at Liverpool. That's no secret. Sao Paulo's Brazilian midfielder Pablo Maia is keen on a move to the Premier League, with West Ham, Arsenal and Fulham all viewed as potential destinations. For me, I think West Ham or Fulham makes the most sense for him at this point. I don't think he's quite ready to join Arsenal and play at the level that they're playing at, but he is a very good player. Luis Suarez has said that Inter Miami will be the last club of his career. He wants to finish off playing with Messi. That's understandable. Sunderland forward Jack Clark could leave in the summer, according to the player's agent, after the Championship club rejected a bid from Lazio in January. He wants to play at the highest level. He's good enough to play at the highest level. He's given Sunderland 3 years now. I think it's fair if he wants to leave. Roma want to sign Diego Llorente on a permanent deal after he impressed during his loan spell there. Juventus have met with former West Ham winger Felipe Anderson, who's out of contract in the summer. He's been really good since going back there. He was great at West Ham in spells. Just consistency was the issue. Newcastle boss Eddie Howe is concerned that Dan Ashworth could hand their transfer secrets to Manchester United if the 52-year-old Englishman makes the move to Old Trafford. I'm not sure Newcastle have transfer secrets. It's not like they're Brighton. It's not like they're Liverpool when Michael Edwards was in charge. Newcastle's transfer business thus far has been a lot of very obvious stuff. Clearly, Ashworth arrived with a couple of names he'd gotten when he was at Brighton. But I don't think Newcastle have too much to worry about there. Marcus Rashford is on Paris Saint-Germain's shortlist to replace Mbappe, who intends to leave the club at the end of the season. Rashford would also fit really, really well in that left-sided role. And frankly, he still looks like a fella who needs a change of scenery. Real Madrid have reserved the number 10 shirt for Mbappe should he join from PSG this summer. It makes sense. Florentino Perez has told Real Madrid players that Mbappe will be joining the club at the end of the season. I doubt he's done that. AC Milan will consider offers in excess of 85.5 million for Rafael Leao, who has also been linked to Paris Saint-Germain as Mbappe's replacement. Mo Salah has been linked with a move to Saudi Arabia. He's also been linked to PSG. If someone offers 150 million, I think Liverpool will take it. And I think Leao will be on their shortlist of players to come in. It would mean obviously a bit of a reshuffle because he'd play from the left. But part of me does think if you got Neto and Leao, you had Darwin as the 9, Dominic as the 10, and those two in the wide areas, or in a 4-3-3 with those two either side of Darwin, that could be pretty special. But obviously, the hope is that Salah renews his contract and stays. Manchester City hope that Real Madrid's move for Mbappe will make it easier to persuade Erling Haaland to sign a new contract until 2029. Chelsea are willing to trigger the 111 million release clause to sign Victor Osimhen. Are they? Can they afford to? We'll see. Manchester United are interested in Bayern Munich's 18-year-old France under-21 striker, Matthias Tell. He's superbly gifted. Superbly gifted. Very, very fun player to watch. And age profile-wise would fit in with Højlund and Garnacho, so it could make sense. Newcastle and Aston Villa are leading the race to sign Emile Smith-Rowe. I'm not sure there is a race to sign him. I'm not sure Arsenal have made it in any way clear that they'd be willing to let him go, other than, obviously, Arteta doesn't play him a whole bunch. But they still seem keen to keep him. Dan Ashworth would attempt to bring in Chelsea's chief analyst Kyle McCauley if he moves to Old Trafford. Arsenal sends scouts to watch 19-year-old Israeli midfielder Oscar Glausch play for Red Bull Salzburg at the weekend. Manager Oliver Glasner will take his first Crystal Palace training session on Tuesday after his appointment as Roy Hodgson's successor is confirmed. Still no word on that at all from Crystal Palace. Bayer Leverkusen have been scouting Luton's 21-year-old English defender Teden Mengi. Okay. Galatasaray are considering a move for Altay Bayindir, the Manchester United reserve goalkeeper who's made only one appearance since joining last summer. And West Ham are confident they can keep hold of Tim Steepten, despite interest from Liverpool. On to Monday then. France striker Kylian Mbappe has agreed a 5-year deal with Real Madrid. Mbappe held talks at Manchester City the day before announcing he was leaving PSG at the end of the season. I think that would have got out through an English publication if it was true. Chelsea are monitoring Harry Kane's situation at Bayern Munich amid reports the 30-year-old striker is not completely happy. Haven't seen those reports personally, and it is Football Insider, so high probability of spoofing. Liverpool are hoping to lure both Xabi Alonso and Simon Rolfs from Bayer Leverkusen to replace Jurgen Klopp and Jörg Schmadtke. Again, Football Insider, high probability of spoofing. It's Wayne Vesey. It's definitely spoofing. There's no sources there at all. Tottenham are planning a summer move for Everton's 22-year-old English midfielder James Garner. I mean, if Højbjerg goes, I could see him as a squad player there. Former Wales manager Chris Coleman is a contender for the Republic of Ireland job after talks with Lee Carsley stalled. We'll wait and see if that's true, but given some of the names out there, I mean, it is Miguel Delaney. He's got really good connections with the FAI. It's probably true. Thomas Tuchel will not be sacked despite suffering a third defeat in 9 days against Bochum on Sunday. We'll wait and see. I doubt he has long left in that job. Barcelona president Joan Laporta has asked for more scouting reports on Roberto De Zerbi as he considers approaching him to succeed Xavi at the end of the season. Real Madrid manager Carlo Ancelotti has spoken to Luka Modric, whose contract is out in the summer, about his lack of playing time this season. Look, Real are loaded in midfield, so unfortunately Modric, who has declined significantly, is just the one getting squeezed. Birmingham City's 33-year-old Republic of Ireland defender Kevin Long is close to completing a move to MLS side Toronto FC. So there we go. That's all the gossip. That's all I have for today, folks. Thank you as always for listening. I hope you enjoyed the Steve Bruce interview. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.